Okay, so welcome to your brain-based therapy program. Today's your first visit, and I want to explain a process that's really, really important, and this is what we're going to focus on in this first visit. All right, so you're going to be doing brain-based therapies today, and this is going to be something that's unique that you probably never experienced before. So when you look at your brain, this is looking at it from the side, this is the front, this is the back, this is the cerebellum, and then your spinal cord comes down. There's a part of the brain runs right about here. It's called the motor cortex. That's the voluntary motor cortex. So I'm thinking about taking this pen and waving it around. I have motor control over the grip of the pen and the waving of the arm. This is voluntary control. It's not like your heart beating or your gastrointestinal tract digesting food. Those are all automatic or autonomic nervous system responses. These are responses that we control. Okay? So that motor cortex, if I cut through that, and I took the brain and I turned it like this, it would look like this, with your cerebellum down here and then your spinal cord down here. On this motor cortex, you have what's called a homunculus, and that homunculus is a map of the nerve distribution throughout the brain. So, for example, if this is the left side of the brain and this is the right side, this left homunculus would control the right side of the body and the right homunculus the left side of the body. Okay, so in this homunculus, the hands and arms have a large distribution of nerves throughout. So most of the brain-based therapies that we're going to have you doing are going to be utilizing hand and arm function. And the reason for that is because we're going to get a large effect on the brain. So for example, you'll be doing what's called an upper body ergometer. It's a hand bike, and you're going to be pedaling forward, you're going to be pedaling backwards, you're going to switch hands forward and backwards. And I want you to make sure you do that when you're doing it. You'll be on the upper body ergometer for about 10 minutes, but just make sure you're switching it up so that you're constantly challenging and restarting the brain. So these simple hand exercises are going to affect a large portion of this homunculus. Then we're going to have you doing exercises that are going to be stimulating and sending signals up the spinal cord and hitting the cerebellum, and then crossing over and stimulating the frontal lobe and the parietal lobe on the opposite side. Now, for your specific protocol, if you have one side of the brain that's weaker than the other, then you'll be doing a lot of what we call unilateral therapies, one-sided therapies, because we're going to be trying to work the weak side of the brain. If you have bilateral hemisphericity, then we're going to be working both sides of the brain. Either way, what's going to happen is when you stimulate that cerebellum, and then it crosses over and stimulates the frontal lobe, and then also the parietal lobe, that's what you're looking at. You're getting an effect like this. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because these exercises that you're doing may not feel very strenuous to you because they're not a physical workout. They're not like you're going in lifting weights or something like that. You're not going to walk out of here physically fatigued. But what's happening is these are very, very specifically designed to stimulate the parts of your brain that are weak. Now, what happens in your brain, we have what's called metabolic capacity. And in health, you're down here. So you come in and we do your brain-based exercises and that stimulates you, and you go to work and you get some stimulation there, and then you go home and you deal with kids. You get all these stimulations, but in a healthy situation you can handle all of this because you don't exceed your metabolic capacity. With where you are, you're somewhere more up here. So doing these brain-based exercises is going to give you stimulation. Living through your day is going to give you stimulation. All these things are going to give you stimulation, and our goal is to push you as far as we can without exceeding that capacity. Because if we exceed that capacity, if we cross that line, we call that EMC. It's called exceeding metabolic capacity. And if that happens, you're going to crash. And what that looks like is at the end of the day today, or at some point during the day, or even sometime tomorrow, you'll start feeling very, very fatigued, very tired. You might get a headache. You might be irritable or moody. Just something that makes you know that you overdid it. You'll feel worse than you usually do. Now, the response I usually get with this is, those things you just described are my normal day. Well, it's going to be worse than your normal day if we exceed metabolic capacity. It's not a huge deal. It's not permanent. Your body will recover. Depending on what your status is, your body will recover, but we don't want you to feel that way. So our goal is to get you as close to this as possible without exceeding it, okay? And each day that you come in and you do your therapy, your metabolic capacity increases, and we can add more and more therapy and more effects so that we can get you healing quicker and quicker. So here's a critical factor. Each time we see you, the visits build on each other. If you start missing visits, then and you stop doing your exercises at home, then you're not going to progress as quickly as you should. So it's important to get to your appointments, and it's important to do your exercises at home as they're instructed to you. Make sure you only do the exercises that you are told to do by your health coach or your therapist. Make sure that you only do the number of reps that you're told to do by your health coach or your therapist, because if you overdo it, you exceed that capacity, you're not going to be happy with it. Okay? So this is our goal. So in this session today, I want you to pay attention to how you're feeling. If you get any kind of dizziness or anything like that, let your therapist know so they can modify your treatment. After you're done with your treatment today, pay close attention to how you feel for the rest of the day so you can give us feedback next time we see you, so that we'll know if we've exceeded capacity or not. All right, I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask your health coach or your therapist.